Welcome to Untold Stories of Freddie Mercury. If this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. And now, let's dive into today's unforgettable story. The year was 1975, and the music industry operated under strict, unforgiving rules. Record labels controlled everything: what got played, what got promoted, and most importantly, what got released. In the sterile boardrooms of EMI Records in London, executives sat behind mahogany desks, their conservative minds focused on profit margins and radio-friendly formulas. They had built their empire on 3-minute pop songs, predictable structures, and safe commercial bets. What they were about to hear would challenge everything they believed about music. Freddie Mercury stood outside the conference room, clutching a cassette tape that contained 6 minutes and 55 seconds of pure artistic rebellion. His heart pounded against his chest as he adjusted his mustache nervously, a habit he had developed during moments of intense pressure. The tape in his hands represented months of meticulous work, countless studio hours, and the combined genius of 4 young men who dared to dream beyond conventional boundaries. This was not just another Queen song. This was their masterpiece, their statement to the world that rock music could be operatic, theatrical, and completely unprecedented. The rejection had been swift and brutal. The EMI executives had listened to barely half of the song before stopping the tape player with dismissive clicks of their tongues. Their faces showed the kind of polite disgust reserved for experimental art that threatened their comfortable understanding of commercial music. The words they used cut deep into Freddie's artistic soul. Too long, too complex, too weird, unmarketable. They explained with patronizing patience that radio stations would never play a 6-minute song, that audiences would lose interest, that the operatic section made no commercial sense. But what those executives failed to understand was that they were not dealing with an ordinary musician. Freddie Mercury possessed a vision that transcended their limited imagination, a creative fire that burned too bright to be contained by corporate fear. As he walked out of that meeting, his flamboyant exterior masked a determination that would reshape the landscape of popular music forever. The rejection had not crushed his spirit. It had ignited something far more powerful. In the days following the meeting, Freddie retreated to his flat in Kensington, surrounded by the eclectic collection of art and antiques that reflected his complex personality. He paced the rooms like a caged lion, his mind racing with possibilities and strategies. The song meant everything to him. It was a fusion of his classical training, his love for opera, his rock sensibilities, and his theatrical instincts all woven into one revolutionary composition. He had poured his entire artistic identity into those 6 minutes, creating something that had never existed before in popular music. The other members of Queen shared his frustration, but also his unwavering belief in the song's potential. Brian May had crafted guitar harmonies that soared like cathedral choirs. Roger Taylor had provided rhythmic complexity that drove the song's dramatic shifts, and John Deacon had anchored the entire composition with bass lines that were both subtle and powerful. Together, they had created something that defied categorization, a piece of music that was simultaneously a rock anthem, an opera, a ballad, and a hard rock explosion. Freddie knew that conventional promotion would not work for such an unconventional song. The music industry's gatekeepers had already shown their inability to recognize groundbreaking art when it stood before them. He needed to find another way, a path that would bypass the traditional channels and speak directly to the people who truly mattered, the listeners, the fans, the ones who were hungry for something new and extraordinary. As he sat at his piano that evening, playing fragments of the melody that had been rejected, Freddie Mercury made a decision that would echo through music history. He would not compromise his vision, would not edit his masterpiece to fit their narrow expectations, and would not allow corporate fear to diminish his artistic truth. Instead, he would find a way to prove that audiences were far more sophisticated and adventurous than the industry executives believed. The revolution was about to begin. The solution came to Freddie Mercury in a moment of brilliant inspiration, born from his deep understanding of both media and human psychology. While the record executives saw only obstacles, Freddie saw opportunity. He had cultivated relationships throughout London's entertainment scene, and one friendship in particular would prove instrumental in changing music history forever. Kenny Everett, The irreverent radio DJ, known for his willingness to break rules and challenge conventions, represented exactly the kind of ally Freddie needed. Kenny Everett's radio show on Capital Radio had built a devoted following precisely because he refused to follow the standard playlist formulas that other stations embraced. His listeners tuned in expecting the unexpected, craving the kind of musical adventures that mainstream radio avoided. Everett possessed the rare combination of genuine musical curiosity and complete disregard for industry politics that made him the perfect catalyst for Freddie's plan. The strategy that emerged was elegantly simple, yet devastatingly effective. Rather than begging record executives to reconsider their position, Freddie would circumvent them entirely. He would create demand from the ground up, proving that audiences were far more sophisticated than the industry assumed. The plan required perfect timing, absolute secrecy, and unwavering faith in the song's power to captivate listeners. On a crisp October evening in 1975, Freddie made his way to Kenny Everett's flat, carrying the precious master tape of Bohemian Rhapsody. The weight of the cassette in his hands felt symbolic of the enormous risk he was taking. If this gamble failed, it could damage Queen's relationship with their label permanently. But Freddie had reached a point where artistic integrity mattered more than corporate approval, where the need to share his vision outweighed the fear of professional consequences. The meeting between the two men crackled with creative energy and mutual understanding. Everett listened to the complete song with the kind of focused attention that true music lovers reserve for exceptional art. His reaction was immediate and visceral. He recognized instantly that he was hearing something unprecedented, a piece of music that would redefine what popular songs could achieve. The operatic section that had confused and frightened the record executives thrilled Everett with its audacious creativity. What happened next would become the stuff of music industry legend. Everett agreed not just to play the song, but to champion it with the full force of his considerable influence. However, the plan required careful orchestration. The song needed to be introduced gradually, building anticipation and curiosity among listeners before anyone realized what was happening. Everett would play strategic excerpts, tantalizing fragments that would leave audiences desperate to hear the complete composition. The first broadcast occurred on a Saturday afternoon, when Everett's audience was particularly receptive to musical experimentation. He introduced the excerpts with his characteristic enthusiasm, describing the music in terms that emphasized its revolutionary nature without revealing its controversial length. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Phone lines lit up with listeners demanding to know more about this extraordinary new Queen song. Freddie monitored the reaction from his home, his nervous energy barely contained, as reports filtered back about the audience response. Each positive call, each request for more information, each expression of genuine excitement validated his belief that music lovers were ready for something beyond the industry's safe formulas. The strategy was working exactly as he had envisioned, creating organic demand that no amount of corporate marketing could manufacture. As word spread through London's music community, other DJs began inquiring about the mysterious new Queen track. Music journalists started asking questions, and record stores reported customers seeking information about when the complete song would be available. The underground buzz was building into something that could no longer be ignored by the very executives who had initially rejected the song. Freddie realized that he had successfully created the most powerful force in the entertainment industry, genuine public demand. The tables were turning, and soon the record label would find themselves in the position of having to explain why they were withholding a song that their own audience desperately wanted to hear. The revolution was gaining momentum. The impact of Kenny Everett's strategic broadcasts rippled through London's music scene like wildfire spreading through dry grass. Within days, the mysterious Queen song had become the most talked-about piece of music in the city, despite the fact that most people had only heard fragments. Record stores across London found themselves fielding dozens of inquiries daily from customers, desperately seeking information about when they could purchase the complete track. Freddie Mercury watched this phenomenon unfold with a mixture of vindication and nervous anticipation. His gamble was paying off in ways that exceeded even his optimistic projections. The organic buzz surrounding Bohemian Rhapsody had created something that no amount of traditional marketing could achieve: genuine cultural excitement. People were not just interested in hearing the song, they were actively seeking it out. discussing it with friends, and creating a demand that grew stronger with each passing day. The other members of Queen observed this grassroots movement with amazement and growing confidence. Brian May, whose intricate guitar harmonies formed the backbone of the song's complex structure, began receiving calls from fellow musicians asking about the technical aspects of the recording. Roger Taylor found himself fielding questions about the song's unusual rhythmic patterns, while John Deacon quietly enjoyed watching the industry establishment scramble to understand what was happening. Meanwhile, at EMI Records, the executives who had so confidently rejected the song found themselves in an increasingly uncomfortable position. Their phones rang constantly with inquiries from radio programmers, music journalists, and distributors, all asking the same question: when would the complete version of the new Queen song be available? The very people who had dismissed Bohemian Rhapsody as unmarketable were now being pressured by the market itself to reconsider their decision. The pressure intensified when other radio stations began requesting copies of the song. Kenny Everett's success had not gone unnoticed by his competitors, and several prominent DJs expressed interest in featuring the track on their own programs. The song's reputation was spreading beyond London, reaching music industry professionals in Manchester, Birmingham, and even crossing the Atlantic to generate curiosity in American markets. Freddie recognized that this was the crucial moment in his campaign. The momentum was building, but it needed to be sustained and amplified before the industry's natural resistance could reassert itself. He began making strategic appearances at London's music venues, not to perform, but to gauge the public's reaction and to subtly fuel the growing anticipation. His presence at these gatherings inevitably led to conversations about the mysterious new song, further amplifying the buzz. The music press, always hungry for stories that captured the public imagination, began investigating the phenomenon. Journalists who had initially dismissed the song as too experimental found themselves writing articles about the unprecedented public response to a track that had not even been officially released. The story was becoming bigger than the music itself. It was evolving into a narrative about artistic vision, challenging corporate conservatism. Record distributors, who understood market dynamics better than anyone, began pressuring EMI to reconsider their position. They could see the demand building and recognize the commercial potential that the label's executives had failed to grasp. The song that had been deemed unmarketable was generating more pre-release interest than most officially promoted singles achieved after weeks of expensive advertising campaigns. As October progressed, the situation reached a tipping point. The underground success of Bohemian Rhapsody had created a phenomenon that could no longer be contained or ignored. EMI found themselves facing a choice: continue to resist the mounting pressure or acknowledge that they had fundamentally misjudged both the song and their audience. Freddie Mercury's revolutionary strategy had succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. The boardroom at EMI Records had transformed from a place of confident decision-making into a pressure cooker of corporate anxiety. The same executives who had dismissed Bohemian Rhapsody with such certainty now found themselves scrambling to understand how a song they had rejected was generating more industry buzz than their entire current roster combined. Sales reports from record stores painted an undeniable picture. Customers were actively seeking a product that did not officially exist. The turning point came when Capital Radio's listener research department presented data that shattered every assumption the music industry held about audience preferences. The demographic analysis revealed that the song's appeal crossed all traditional boundaries. Teenagers, young adults, and even older listeners were expressing unprecedented enthusiasm for the experimental track. The 6-minute length that had been cited as a fatal flaw was actually being praised by audiences as refreshingly ambitious. Freddie Mercury sensed the shift in the industry's attitude through the subtle changes in how people interacted with him at social gatherings. Record company representatives who had previously offered polite but dismissive smiles now approached him with genuine curiosity and barely concealed desperation. The power dynamic had completely reversed, and everyone in London's music scene could feel the change. The pressure on EMI intensified when competing record labels began making discreet inquiries about Queen's contract status. Word had leaked that other companies were interested in signing the band specifically to release the controversial song that EMI had rejected. The possibility of losing Queen to a competitor over a track they had dismissed as unmarketable created panic in the executive suites. Kenny Everett, emboldened by the overwhelming response to his broadcasts, began playing longer excerpts of the song. Each extended preview generated even more listener enthusiasm, proving that audience attention spans were far more sophisticated than industry conventional wisdom suggested. The operatic section, which had been the primary source of executive concern, became the most requested segment among radio audiences. The financial implications of the situation became impossible to ignore when pre-order requests began flooding record stores across the United Kingdom. Retailers reported that customers were willing to pay in advance for a song they had only heard in fragments, demonstrating a level of consumer confidence that marketing departments could only dream of achieving through traditional promotional campaigns. International interest added another layer of pressure to EMI's increasingly untenable position. Music industry contacts in Europe and America were reporting similar enthusiasm among audiences who had heard bootleg recordings of the radio broadcasts. The song was developing a global following before it had even been officially released, creating export opportunities that the label could not afford to ignore. The final blow to EMI's resistance came from an unexpected source: their own shareholders. Financial analysts had begun questioning why the company was refusing to capitalize on what appeared to be a guaranteed commercial success. The stock market's reaction to rumors about the rejected song created pressure from the highest levels of corporate hierarchy. Freddie Mercury received the call on a grey November morning. The voice on the other end of the line carried the unmistakable tone of corporate capitulation disguised as renewed enthusiasm. EMI was ready to discuss releasing Bohemian Rhapsody, but they wanted to frame the decision as their own strategic choice rather than an admission of their initial error in judgment. The victory was complete, but Freddie understood that this was only the beginning. Proving that audiences wanted the song was one thing. Demonstrating that it could achieve commercial success on a global scale would require an entirely different kind of revolution. With EMI's reluctant agreement to release Bohemian Rhapsody, Freddie Mercury faced a new challenge that would prove even more revolutionary than his radio strategy. The music industry's acceptance of the song was only half the battle. Now he needed to create a visual representation that would capture the song's theatrical essence and introduce it to television audiences who had never experienced anything like it before. The concept of music videos was still in its infancy in 1975. Most promotional films were simple performance footage, showing bands playing their instruments in studios or on stages. The idea of creating a cinematic experience that complemented and enhanced the music was virtually unheard of in mainstream rock music. But Freddie's theatrical background and his understanding of visual storytelling convinced him that Bohemian Rhapsody demanded something unprecedented. The challenge was immense. How could any visual medium capture the song's dramatic shifts from intimate ballad to operatic grandeur to hard rock explosion? Traditional performance footage would diminish the song's impact, reducing its cinematic scope to the mundane reality of 4 musicians in a recording studio. Freddie envisioned something that would transport viewers into the song's emotional landscape, creating a visual experience as revolutionary as the music itself. Working with director Bruce Gowers, Freddie developed a concept that would fundamentally change how music and visual media could interact. The video would not simply show Queen performing. It would create a visual narrative that enhanced the song's theatrical elements. The famous 4-way split-screen effect, showing each band member's face in dramatic lighting, became an iconic image that perfectly captured the song's operatic intensity. The production process was unlike anything the music industry had seen before. Instead of spending a few hours capturing basic performance footage, the team invested days in creating elaborate lighting effects, experimenting with camera angles, and developing visual techniques that had never been attempted in promotional music films. The budget exceeded what most record labels spent on entire album campaigns, but Freddie understood that extraordinary music demanded extraordinary presentation. The technical innovations required for the video pushed the boundaries of what was possible with 1975 technology. The multiple exposure effects that created the choir-like visual during the operatic section required precise timing and multiple takes to achieve the desired impact. Each band member had to perform their parts with exact synchronization, knowing that any mistake would require starting the entire sequence over again. Freddie's perfectionism during the video shoot became legendary among the production crew. He understood that this visual representation would introduce Bohemian Rhapsody to millions of people who had never heard the song, and he refused to accept anything less than perfection. Every lighting adjustment, every camera angle, every facial expression was scrutinized and refined until it met his exacting standards. The completed video was a masterpiece of visual storytelling that perfectly complemented the song's dramatic structure. The intimate opening section featured close-up shots that drew viewers into the emotional vulnerability of the lyrics. The operatic middle section exploded into a kaleidoscope of visual effects that matched the music's theatrical grandeur. The hard rock conclusion delivered visual intensity that amplified the song's powerful climax. When the video was completed, it represented more than just a promotional tool for a single song. It was a proof of concept that music videos could be legitimate art forms, capable of enhancing and expanding the emotional impact of recorded music. The production had created a new template for how artists could present their work to television audiences. The video's completion marked the end of one phase of Freddie's revolution and the beginning of another. He had successfully challenged the music industry's assumptions about song length and commercial viability. He had proven that audiences were hungry for artistic ambition and creative risk-taking. Now he was about to demonstrate that visual media could transform how people experience music, creating a new art form that would influence generations of artists. The stage was set for the final phase of a revolution that would change popular music forever. The release of Bohemian Rhapsody on October 31st, 1975, marked a pivotal moment in music history that would be remembered as the day popular music broke free from its commercial constraints. The song that EMI executives had deemed too long, too complex and too unmarketable, was about to prove that audiences were far more sophisticated and adventurous than the industry had ever imagined. The initial radio response exceeded even Freddie Mercury's optimistic expectations. Stations across the United Kingdom began playing the complete 6-minute version, abandoning their traditional 3-minute format restrictions for the first time in broadcasting history. DJs who had built their careers on safe, predictable playlists found themselves championing a song that defied every conventional rule of commercial radio programming. The public's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Record stores reported unprecedented demand, with customers queuing outside shops before opening hours to purchase copies of the single. The song's complex structure, which industry experts had predicted would confuse listeners, instead captivated audiences who appreciated being treated as intelligent consumers capable of following sophisticated musical narratives. Television appearances became crucial to the song's success, and this was where Freddie's revolutionary music video proved its worth. When Queen appeared on Top of the Pops, the BBC's most influential music program, they made the unprecedented decision to broadcast the pre-recorded video instead of requiring a live performance. This choice, initially met with resistance from television producers, demonstrated the power of visual storytelling to enhance musical experience. The video's impact on television audiences was transformative. Viewers who had never seen anything like the dramatic visual effects, the operatic staging, and the cinematic quality of the production found themselves witnessing the birth of a new art form. The four-way split-screen effect during the operatic section became an iconic image that would be referenced and imitated for decades to come. International markets responded with equal enthusiasm, proving that the song's appeal transcended cultural and linguistic boundaries. Radio stations in Europe, Australia, and eventually America began playing the complete version, demonstrating that musical ambition could succeed on a global scale. The song's success challenged the industry's assumption that complex music could not achieve international commercial viability. The chart performance shattered every prediction made by the industry experts who had initially rejected the song. Bohemian Rhapsody climbed to #1 in the United Kingdom and maintained that position for 9 consecutive weeks, a feat that seemed impossible for a 6-minute song with an operatic middle section. The commercial success vindicated every aspect of Freddie's revolutionary strategy. Critics who had initially dismissed the song as pretentious or overly ambitious found themselves reassessing their positions as public enthusiasm continued to grow. Music journalists began writing articles about the song's innovative structure, its seamless blending of musical genres, and its demonstration that popular music could be both commercially successful and artistically sophisticated. The success of Bohemian Rhapsody created ripple effects throughout the music industry that extended far beyond Queen's immediate commercial triumph. Record labels began reconsidering their assumptions about song length, musical complexity, and audience sophistication. Artists who had been pressured to conform to commercial formulas found new freedom to explore creative possibilities that had previously been deemed unmarketable. The music video's success on television programs worldwide established a new promotional medium that would eventually revolutionize how artists presented their work to audiences. The concept of creating cinematic experiences to accompany recorded music evolved from Freddie's innovative vision into an entire industry that would influence popular culture for generations. As 1975 drew to a close, it became clear that Freddie Mercury had achieved something far more significant than commercial success. He had fundamentally altered the relationship between artistic ambition and commercial viability, proving that audiences were hungry for creative risk-taking and musical innovation. The revolution was complete, but its impact was just beginning. The unprecedented success of Bohemian Rhapsody sent shockwaves through the global music industry that would reshape the landscape of popular music for decades to come. Record executives who had built their careers on safe, formulaic approaches to commercial music found themselves forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about audience preferences and artistic viability. The song's triumph became a case study taught in music business schools and marketing departments worldwide. Industry professionals analyzed every aspect of Freddie Mercury's strategy, from the grassroots radio campaign to the revolutionary music video, seeking to understand how a rejected song had become one of the most successful singles in music history. The conventional wisdom that had governed the industry for decades crumbled under the weight of undeniable commercial evidence. Artists across the globe drew inspiration from Queen's breakthrough, recognizing that Bohemian Rhapsody had opened doors that had previously been sealed shut by corporate conservatism. Musicians who had been told their compositions were too long, too complex, or too experimental suddenly found record labels willing to consider projects that would have been automatically rejected just months earlier. The song had proven that audiences craved artistic ambition and were willing to reward creative risk-taking with commercial success. The impact on radio programming was equally revolutionary. Station managers, who had rigidly enforced 3-minute song limits, found themselves under pressure from listeners demanding longer, more sophisticated musical experiences. The success of Bohemian Rhapsody demonstrated that radio audiences possessed attention spans far greater than industry research had suggested, leading to fundamental changes in broadcasting philosophy. Television programming underwent similar transformation as the success of Queen's music video proved the commercial potential of cinematic promotional films. Production companies began investing significant resources in creating visual experiences that complemented and enhanced recorded music, establishing an entirely new creative industry that would eventually become as important as the music itself. The technological innovations required to create the Bohemian Rhapsody video pushed the boundaries of what was possible in 1975, inspiring advances in video production techniques that would benefit the entire entertainment industry. The multiple exposure effects, dramatic lighting, and synchronized performance elements became standard techniques that influenced not only music videos but also television commercials, movie productions, and theatrical presentations. International markets responded to the song's success by becoming more receptive to experimental music from British artists, creating opportunities for countless musicians who had previously been considered too unconventional for global audiences. The song's worldwide appeal demonstrated that musical innovation could transcend cultural boundaries, encouraging record labels to take chances on artists who might have been overlooked in the past. The financial success of Bohemian Rhapsody also transformed Queen's relationship with their record label and established new precedents for artist autonomy in creative decisions. The band's proven ability to identify commercial potential that industry experts had missed gave them unprecedented leverage in future negotiations, setting a template for how successful artists could maintain creative control while achieving commercial success. Music critics and journalists found themselves reassessing their role in evaluating artistic merit versus commercial viability. The song's success challenged the traditional divide between critical acclaim and popular appeal, demonstrating that sophisticated musical composition could achieve both artistic recognition and massive commercial success simultaneously. The educational impact extended to music schools and conservatories, where Bohemian Rhapsody became a standard example of how classical musical techniques could be successfully integrated into popular music formats. The song's operatic section introduced countless listeners to musical concepts they might never have encountered otherwise, creating a bridge between high art and popular culture. As the months following the song's release turned into years, it became clear that Freddie Mercury's revolution had permanently altered the music industry's DNA. The barriers between artistic ambition and commercial success had been shattered, creating possibilities that would inspire generations of musicians to push creative boundaries. The transformation was irreversible and profound. Nearly 5 decades after its release, Bohemian Rhapsody stands as more than just a successful song. It represents a fundamental shift in how the music industry approaches artistic innovation and commercial potential. The revolution that Freddie Mercury initiated in 1975 continues to influence artists, record labels, and audiences in ways that extend far beyond the original impact of that 6-minute masterpiece. The song's enduring popularity has validated every aspect of Freddie's original vision. Streaming platforms report that Bohemian Rhapsody remains one of the most played tracks across all demographics, proving that musical sophistication and complexity can maintain relevance across generations. Young listeners discovering the song for the first time experience the same sense of wonder and excitement that captivated audiences in 1975, demonstrating the timeless appeal of genuine artistic ambition. Modern music videos owe their existence to the cinematic vision that Freddie and his collaborators brought to the Bohemian Rhapsody promotional film. The techniques pioneered in that groundbreaking production, dramatic lighting, multiple exposure effects, synchronized performance elements, became the foundation upon which an entire industry was built. Today's most celebrated music video directors cite Queen's work as a primary influence on their approach to visual storytelling. The song's impact on artist autonomy cannot be overstated. Freddie Mercury's successful challenge to record label authority established precedents that continue to benefit musicians today. Artists now routinely negotiate for creative control over their work, understanding that commercial success and artistic integrity are not mutually exclusive. The music industry's acceptance of longer song formats, experimental structures, and unconventional promotional strategies can be traced directly back to the courage Freddie displayed in defending his vision. Educational institutions worldwide have incorporated Bohemian Rhapsody into their curricula as an example of how popular music can achieve both commercial success and artistic sophistication. Music theory classes analyze the song's complex harmonic progressions, while business schools study Freddie's marketing strategy as a masterclass in challenging conventional wisdom. The song has become a bridge between academic musical study and popular culture appreciation. The technological innovations required to create both the recording and the music video pushed the boundaries of what was possible in 1975, inspiring advances that benefited the entire entertainment industry. The multi-tracking techniques used to create the operatic choir effects influenced recording methods that are still used today, while the video production innovations established techniques that became standard practice in television and film production. Perhaps most significantly, Bohemian Rhapsody proved that audiences possess far greater sophistication and adventurous spirit than industry executives had believed. The song's success demonstrated that people hunger for artistic challenge and creative ambition, preferring innovation over formulaic repetition. This revelation transformed how record labels approach new artists and experimental music, creating opportunities for countless musicians who might otherwise have been overlooked. The international success of the song established new paradigms for global music marketing, proving that artistic excellence could transcend cultural and linguistic boundaries. Record labels learned that taking creative risks could yield rewards far greater than playing it safe, leading to increased investment in innovative artists and experimental projects worldwide. The song's influence extends beyond the music industry into broader cultural conversations about artistic integrity, commercial pressure, and the relationship between creativity and commerce. Bohemian Rhapsody became a symbol of what could be achieved when artists refused to compromise their vision, inspiring creators across all artistic disciplines to maintain faith in their unique perspectives. As new generations discover the song through films, streaming platforms, and live performances, its revolutionary impact continues to resonate. Each new listener experiences the same sense of discovery that captivated audiences in 1975, proving that genuine artistic innovation possesses timeless appeal that transcends technological changes and cultural shifts. Freddie Mercury's refusal to accept the limitations imposed by industry conservatism created ripple effects that continue to shape popular music today. His revolution proved that the most powerful force in the entertainment industry is not corporate marketing or industry expertise, but the genuine connection between artistic vision and human emotion. The legacy lives on, inspiring new generations of artists to dream beyond conventional boundaries and trust in the transformative power of authentic creative expression. If you enjoyed today's story, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming emotional and inspiring tales about Freddie's life and legacy. Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one, and often your ideas inspire our next episode. See you next time.